I've always been making. Ever since I was a child, it's what got me through so many things in life, was making.
I think as a kid, so much of what I wanted was to get out of the suburbs and be in the wilderness. It wasn't until I was older, I think, that I realized that what I was actually yearning for was to be more hands-on with materials that come from nature.
I grew up in Marpole in South Vancouver, close to like the clay deposits of the Fraser River. And I got into ceramics quite seriously as a teenager. I was like transitioning out of dance and really attracted to like the physicality of clay.
I've always been interested in working with non-traditional materials, but paired with traditional materials. It sort of actually began as a design challenge. I watched a documentary on plastics, and it was talking about how so many different kinds of plastics aren't recyclable for so many different reasons. But the very next morning, I was squeezing out the last remnants of an eye makeup remover. And I thought, you know, as a design challenge, this is a cool material.
I like designing by prototyping. I like designing by playing. I want to make things by experimenting with material and then see where the material takes me. We have a light fixture called the scatter-gather light fixture. Still feels like pieces of driftwood put together, but hopefully conveys more of a feeling of where this material has been. Stripping away the patina of the ocean and the beach off of the driftwood, but we're actually kind of featuring that patina.
Glaze chemistry is a really big part of my practice, and I'm motivated by researching new material. I have some glazes that are made out of oyster shells that I sourced on Hornby. It becomes a crawl glaze. It kind of reacts like the ocean. It's quite unpredictable and makes my work more about BC and the West Coast.
I would not have believed that years ago. My trajectory was working with plastic and washed ashore plastic. Part of why I started doing these larger works that I tongue-in-cheek call wall jewelry is because the problem isn't getting any smaller. It's now almost impossible to separate the synthetic from the natural world. Small steps make big changes, so if I can go bigger and make more of an impact to try and change as much as I can, just being able to collect on my own island has been really, really great.
The more that I can talk about my work as it relates to a very specific place, the more meaningful it is to people around the world. I found myself working in construction and doing carpentry work in San Francisco, where I started to salvage old Douglas fir timbers out of these Victorian homes that we were doing work on. And my whole art practice showing in galleries was about the forest, and it was about these old timbers from British Columbia. For me, it feels like I've been just kind of like following this material to its natural home.
I find having a public space and interfacing with the public has been really amazing to be like a performance work and creating education around the process. And that brings this much more personal element to the work. As we move into the next phase and I'm returned to a private studio model, I'm definitely aware of the ephemeral nature of the studio here on Main Street. I think it's really important to document this space and what it's meant for myself and other makers. I personally grew up in an environment where people told me it wouldn't be possible to be a working artist, and that has motivated me to pursue this in a way that I want to prove that it's possible.
My favorite days as a kid was a rainy day. I would make these faux Fabergé eggs. My mom, I would go through her jewelry drawer and pick out broken bits of jewelry. And then my dad's basement, I would pick out all these other things and I'd combine them together. And it's really hilarious to look at those now because I'm still doing the exact same thing. They say that what you were doing when you're 8 is what you'll be doing as your profession, and I never, ever would have thought that. So it's kind of funny.